Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well and you have gone through both the videos on budget. This is the third part and this is the last part. In this, we'll quickly complete the remaining parts of our Saptarishi and we'll end this series on budget. So let's start with a quick recap and then we'll proceed to today's new topic. So we had seen Article 112. We know there is no word like budget in the Constitution. It is known as annual financial statement. It is prepared by Ministry of Finance, Department of Economic Affairs. There are two parts. The budget is divided into revenue budget and capital budget, which is already said by the Constitution. Part A is economic survey. Part B is the budget, as we say in the common language. Now, Part B also deals with the finance bill and the taxation proposals and comes under money bill as defined in Article 110. Next, we saw what are all other documents which are presented with the budget. We then learned the two divisions of budget, the receipt and the expenditure. We saw what all components are there under each head of the revenue receipts, capital receipts, expenditure and capital. We next saw what forms the non-debt creating receipts. This can be asked in an MCQ. We saw the general objective of a budget. We then learned why this budget is unique and how India's position is unique. It is the Amrit Kal, which is 25 years from the 75th year till the 100th year of independence. India has the G20 presidency. Also, this is the last full budget. The next budget will be an interim budget before the country goes for the general election next year. Then we saw the key initiatives. We then saw how our macroeconomic fundamentals are doing, and we saw how the infrastructure capital expenditure has increased and how the NPAs have decreased. The GST has stabilized around 1.5 lakh crore, and the fiscal deficit is projected to be around 5.9% of GDP in the year 2024-25. We also saw the status of our forex reserves and we saw how the wholesale price index is converging with the CPI. And I hope you have revised what all constitutes the wholesale price index and the CPI and the difference between them. If the students want us to do more videos on the basics of economy, please do comment in the comment section on what all topics you want us to do, or you want us to create a whole series on basics of economy. Then we saw the three visions of Amrit Kal as said by the government, of creating opportunities for citizens with focus on youth. Then we saw the growth and job creation as second vision, and strong and stable macroeconomic is the third vision. We then saw the seven Saptarishis or the priorities for this year and the Amrit Kal, and we'll try to remember these because this is very important for this year's MCQ. In the second part, we saw the four transformative opportunities which the government has identified. The first is economic empowerment of women, where we want to promote the SSGs to producer enterprises and collectives. Then we saw PM Vishwakarma Samman, Kaushal Samman, which is PM Vikas for traditional crafts people, artisans and craft people to improve quality, scale, and market. Then we saw how tourism sector is an opportunity and how the government wants to boost this for job creation, for entrepreneurship. Green growth, India is the pioneer in green growth, and we want to pursue green fuel, green farming, green mobility, green building, green jobs. We then started with the first part of the Saptarishi or the seven priorities, and we had completed inclusive development. So we'll quickly go through them. I hope you remember AICS. We had developed this in our previous lecture to remember all the 5 components of inclusive development. We then saw how each and every component has been dealt in the budget. We saw agriculture and cooperatives. We talked about building digital infrastructure, public infrastructure. We saw how horticulture has to be cleaned for better exports. Then we also learned about Shriyan. Then the government is setting up agriculture accelerator fund. We learned why we need a national database of cooperatives and decentralization of storage capacity, how we are wasting a lot of our crop production and agriculture production due to unavailability of good storage capacity. We also saw how there has been a steadily increase in the credit to the agriculture sector of about 20 lakh crore. Then we saw the record food grain production year on year. We see that even in the COVID period, our food grain production has increased. We then saw the health sector, where 157 new nursing colleges is to be established. We learned what sickle cell anemia, and I hope you went back and revised in the science and tech what sickle cell anemia is, what anemia is, and what is the status of anemia presently in world and in India specifically. Then we read about this joint public and private medical research. We then saw the education and skilling and how government has started focusing on teachers training, and how government wants to re-establish the culture of reading and provide quality books to do the same. We then saw that what the percent of expenditure on health and education is, and we know it is quite low. And yes, you should revise the NEP. It is still relevant for questions for MCQ. We then solved some MCQs. Now let's start the last part, and we'll start with the second sub-ratio or the second priority of the government, which is reaching the last mile. Reaching the last mile means reaching the fringe section of the society, or the most vulnerable section of the society, which is the PVTG. So we all know who tribals are. Now, PVTGs are tribal, but they are particularly vulnerable tribal groups. They are more vulnerable or more uh, marginalized than the normal tribes. These are 75 in number as identified by the government, and you should read about them. Do make a note and comment in the section below which state has the highest number of tribal, highest number of PVTG, highest number of tribals, and which report suggested about PVTGs. Next, uh, this is specific to Karnataka, the drought-prone region of Karnataka. Sustainable micro irrigation has to be provided there. Then we know the Eklavya Model Residential School is for tribal children, where they are educated, and more teachers will be recruited to these Eklavya Model Residential Schools. Then there is Bharat Shri, which is digitization of ancient inscriptions. Then we come to aspirational districts and blocks. So aspirational districts and blocks. Aspirational districts is an old program. So now the government is focusing on blocks. Districts से नीचे आके हम ब्लॉक्स पे फोकस करेंगे so that we deal with the root cause of what are the issues which are causing the backwardness in those blocks, and deal with it and cure the root issue in those blocks. Next, we'll see the infrastructure and investment, the third Saptarishi. Now, incentives to boost investment in infrastructure and productive capacity. As during the budget speech, Miss our finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that an investment of 1 rupee in infrastructure gives a multiplier effect of approximately 2.4 rupees, while a rupee invested in elsewhere gives a multiplier effect of approximately 0.75 rupee. So we see that investment in infrastructure increases the value of each rupee by 2.4 times, while investment in other sector degrades the value of rupee. So that's why infrastructure investment is very important. So we see a better multiplier effect. How? Because as we know, if we invest in infrastructure, infrastructure consists of buildings, roads, cold chains, everything which supports the whole economy. And building these creates new jobs, future job opportunities, new areas of investment, and further growth in the economy. That's why it has a better multiplier effect. Now, we see that the overall increase of 33.4% has been seen, which is equal to 10 lakh crore rupees. Now continuation of 50-year interest free loans to state. जैसा कि हमने स्टार्टिंग में देखा था that central government gives loans to state governments. This has been increased for 50 years, where the state governments doesn't have to pay back the interest. Uh, and when they do return after 50 years, they just have to give back the principal. It is an interest free loan. Now, railway has got the highest ever capital outlay, which is 2.4 lakh crore. Important MCQ from here is, when did the railway and the normal budget were combined in history, and when were they first time separated? Now, 100 transport infrastructure projects identified for end-to-end connectivity. We know the Bharatmala Pariyojana and various other schemes to make connectivity better. Now we have urban infrastructure in tier 2 and tier 3 via UIDF. So till now there was always a more focus on developing infrastructure and investment in the rural section. This time urban infrastructure in tier 2 and tier 3 cities has been focused, and the fund will be released to UIDF. Uh, do keep in mind that the fund released for rural development is through NABARD, and for urban development, a UIDF has been created. Now, next is unleashing the potential. Trust-based governance, where the government wants to make AI in India. We recently had a hackathon on AI, where the AI-based solutions in agriculture, health, and sustainable cities is the expected outcome. Now, the government also wants to develop a national data governance policy, which will help the startups and the academia to get their data from a verified source without much issues. Then there is Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. One came earlier. We have the Vivad Se Vishwas 2, which is for settlement of the MSMEs. So keep in mind with which section the Vivad Se Vishwas scheme is related to. It is related to MSME. Next is the phase 3 of e-courts to be launched. Entity DigiLocker. Till now, DigiLocker was an individual basis. We could see our own Aadhaar card, our own PAN card documents in DigiLocker, which is one person, one DigiLocker. Now, this DigiLocker entity has been Increased to business, enterprise, and charitable trust. You can save your business details, business PAN card, business documents there, and use it as a legal way to show your documents. Next is 100 labs for 5G services. Now, India always wants to pioneer the new technologies, and we'll open 100 labs for 5G services. This has a great employment potential and business opportunity. Next, lab grown diamonds. Do read about this in your science and tech. Know what and how lab grown diamonds are made, what are the seeds, and which country is the largest exporter of lab grown diamonds, and from where India gets its lab grown diamond seeds. Next is green growth. We have PM Pranam. This is for promoting alternative fertilizers, green fertilizers, something like cow dung, neem leaf. Next is 500 new waste to wealth plants. Here the Gobardhan scheme comes important. Read about Gobardhan scheme in detail. Next is green credit program. Then sustainable ecosystem development, which is MISHTI. This is for mangrove plantation along the coastline. We have seen that the mangroves have been declining. The number of mangrove trees have declined. The shore water has risen up and the mangroves have degraded. So read about mangrove, where it is found in India, what are the climatic conditions required for mangrove growth, and what are the environmental hazards causing its depletion. And do write about these things in the comment section. Next, sixth priority is Amrit Pidhi, or the youth power. Now, these 25 years till we attain the 100 years of independence is a big opportunity, because India will have a demographic dividend during these 25 years. That is a very high number of working population. So we want to utilize this, and for that, this these 25 years and the youth are called as Amrit Pidhi, where we'll have the PMKVY 4.0 launched. I hope you all know what is KVY, and a 4.0 will be launched, in which the new age technology courses will be added, like coding, AI, robotics, 3D printing, etc. Then there's measures to boost tourism sector. States will be encouraged to set up unity malls. This means that every state will have one mall in which all the products of all the districts of that state will be presented. You must be aware of about the one district, one product. This was launched in the previous budget. So in this budget, they have given the idea of unity malls, where all the districts of one state will present their products. Now, Skill India digital platform, where there will be a demand-based formal skilling. Earlier, there was formal skilling, which was on fixed courses. The courses were already fixed by the government. Now there will be demand-based. Whatever the market demands, that skill will be provided there. Next is the financial sector, which is the last priority. First is setting up of National Financial Information Registry. This is so that everyone is aware who is taking loans from where the money is going, which bank is giving loans to whom. Setting up a central data processing center, faster handling of administrative work. Credit guarantee scheme for MSME. Now, government, as we have seen, wants to make bigger MSMEs have more outputs. So, credit guarantee scheme has been extended to MSMEs. Next, we see Mahila Samman Bachat Patra. This is a one-time new small savings schemes for a 2-year period, with a deposit facility up to rupees 2 lakh. So we'll remember this like 2 lakh for 2 years. Mahila Samman Bachat Patra. Benefits for senior citizen is that the enhanced maximum deposit limit for senior citizen savings scheme has been increased from 15 lakh to 30 lakh. It has been doubled. Next, now the Saptarishis are over. Now we'll see the general overview of the budget again. First is the tax proposals. Now the government, what government wants is higher exports, higher domestic manufacturing, more value addition in the economy, and green energy and sustainability. So how government wants to achieve this is by changing the custom duty. So we'll see one by one what custom duty change on what will lead to what. So first is import of goods for lithium ion battery manufacturing. So on this, the government would want to decrease the custom duty so that the lithium ion becomes cheaper and we can move towards green mobility. Next is import of mobile camera lens. This will again also be decreased, the customs on mobile camera lens, so that the value addition is increased so that we get cheaper cameras from there and cheaper mobile phones can be manufactured in India. Next is denatured ethyl alcohol, which is for clinical industry. As we have seen, the government wants to increase the pharmaceutical output on the ethyl alcohol will help in increasing the chemical industry. Key inputs for producing shrimp feed. Now this will also be decreased because India wants to become an exporter and higher exporter and higher domestic manufacturing. So this will be decreased so that we produce more and we export more. Now seeds for manufacturing lab grown diamonds will be made cheaper by reducing the custom duty so that the export is promoted and we start exporting our diamonds. Till now India is an importer of diamond. After we can produce our own diamonds, we'll start exporting them. Next is continuing concessional basic custom duty on copper scrap. Now we should be aware that India is a copper deficient country and copper is very important for our electrical industries. So we get our copper from copper scrap. So custom duty on copper scrap will be decreased so that the raw material availability for MSME increases. Now last is compounded rubber to bring it at par with natural rubber to curb duty circumvention. Now, compounded, from here you should know from science and tech point of view that what is the difference between compounded rubber and natural rubber, and write down in the comment section the difference between them. Next is direct tax proposals. So the major thing is then is the new tax regime has been made the default tax regime, and the income till 7 lakh has pay no taxes. Earlier it was 5 lakh, now it has been increased to 7 lakh. So it works like this, like above 5 lakh, you will be paying taxes, but you will get your returns. So there will be no net taxation on a salary up to 7 lakh. Now, we'll see how fiscal management is being done. The 50-year interest-free loans have been given to state. We saw this earlier. Then we saw the fiscal deficit has been a 3.5% of gross state domestic product has been allowed for states. So it was to be 3%, but a 0.5% leverage has been given if the states give power sector reforms. So it is actually to be 3%, but it has been done 3.5%, or an additional 0.5% fiscal deficit is allowed if the state governments allow the power sector reforms. Now there is fiscal consolidation, which is targeted to be about 4.5% or even below that by 2025-26. Next, we see the fiscal deficit trends. Important thing from here can be define fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, effective revenue deficit, and primary deficit. What is the difference between them? You should know this, and if you want us to cover basics of economy, do comment in the comment section, and we'll soon try to start a series on the basics of economy. So for this year, the fiscal deficit is 6.4%. The projected fiscal deficit for 23-24 is 5.9% of GDP. And the target is 4.5% by 2025-26. Next, we see the basic breakdown of where the money comes from and where the money goes to. This you can read on yourself, and the question which can come on this are first is a general arrange in ascending order. The money comes from which areas? Most income tax, corporate tax, GST, excise duty, customs, or and that we have to arrange in ascending order. So we see the maximum comes from the GST. Then is the corporate tax. Then is the income tax. Then is excise duty. And fifth is custom. Now market loans is a different thing because this is borrowing and this is tax revenue. If the question comes uh, from where the maximum money comes to the government, 33.6% comes from the gross tax revenue and 18.7 crore rupees or 12.2% comes from borrowings. And in the gross tax revenue, we'll arrange in ascending order. We'll first have GST, then we have corporate tax, then we have income tax, then we have excise duty and other taxes. Then we see where does our money goes to. So the first is central sector schemes. But the most uh, important area where most of our money goes to is interest payment. The market loans we have taken has to be paid. The interest has to be paid, and that is our highest expenditure. Then we see that the central sponsored scheme has higher expenditure than is the subsidy. So one is interest payment, two is other central sector scheme, three is central sponsored scheme, and four is subsidy. Now you should also do read about which ministry or which area has the maximum budget. The highest is for defense. The next is for Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. And you should make a list and remember at least the top 3, top 4 of them. So we now see the trend in the net receipt of the center, which is maximum from the tax revenue, then the non-tax revenue, and the non-debt capital receipt. Trend in capital expenditure, as we have seen, the capital expenditure has been steadily increased and it has been 4 times of what it was 5 years back. And we also saw how capital expenditure generates more higher multiplier effect in the economy and creates more opportunities and jobs. So that is all for the budget summary. I hope you enjoyed it, and do write in the comment section to the questions, answer to the questions which were asked during the session, and also do give us a review. Do tell us if you want us to make a series on basics of economy, polity, or any subject. And see you in the next series. Till then, subscribe to our Instagram, join a Telegram family where we are actively sharing all the PDFs and information. And even this PDF will be shared there. And see you soon in the next series. Bye bye.